Welcome to the Mindful Healers podcast with
Dr. Jessie Mahoney
and Dr. Ni-Cheng Liang.
We are here to help you learn to pause and be present, awaken your breath, and harness the ripple effects of mindfulness for radiant health.
We get you. We know you. We are you.
We have both been successful on the surface, yet struggling underneath. We have both had cluttered brains, been overwhelmed, and exhausted.
We're healers who have found solutions and want to share them with you.
Join us here to discover a better way.
Welcome to the Mindful Healers podcast episode on finding joy and peace amidst holiday chaos and uncertainty. A reminder that our podcast is not medical advice.
The intention of today's episode is to remind you that setting an intention for holidays and family gatherings can help you be mindful, help you maintain equanimity, and even find peace and joy amidst the chaos and uncertainty. We hope you will discover that letting go of expectations helps. And some takeaways: the value of course, the value of expecting the unexpected, the value of expecting to be frustrated, and the value of having a mindful plan in advance.
So I wanted to share a little bit about my Thanksgiving plans because right now they are officially still up in the air. Some of my immediate family members, two in particular, have had an argument of sorts, and this difficult communication has not been resolved. And so I really don't know what's going to happen during the holidays, though I think, though I'm not for sure, the kids are going to get together. So my two daughters and their cousins are most likely going to get together. And as a result of that, there will be some sort of a holiday family meal, but I don't know what the environment is going to be like surrounding that because of that difficult communication that was had. So there's a lot of uncertainty in the air.
I also have uncertainty. And I think that's what inspired us in part to do this podcast. That and the popularity of our Mother's Day podcast and the popularity of thinking about holidays in advance and choosing how we want to show up for them. And so my holiday plans also, for the most part, uncertain. And also, I will say, disappointing and maybe a little chaotic. And I think that just allowing yourself to feel all the feels around it can be really helpful. So in my case, my parents, who are almost 80, are still concerned about COVID. Despite having 3 vaccines and all of us being vaccinated, they're still not comfortable coming for Thanksgiving. And we are all really disappointed because we really wanted to have Thanksgiving with my parents. In particular, all 3 of my children have been asking me over and over again if their grandparents are coming. And we really haven't spent physical time with them since the pandemic began. So deciding how to respond to that, I've had to use a lot of mindful practices and a lot of self-coaching to allow the disappointment and to respond with intention and to respond not only to my parents and to their concerns, but also to my children and their concerns and all the questions about the why. So that is no longer uncertain, but other parts of my Thanksgiving are still uncertain. So I have a middle son who is a senior in college and has, of course, been invited to join his girlfriend and have a great opportunity for Thanksgiving. And so he has not yet decided whether he's going to join us or not. And he's, of course, an adult, and he, of course, gets to choose. But as a mom, you have a lot of mind drama about what you should say, what you should do, how you should approach it, and how you should feel. And part of me wants him to go have this great opportunity, and part of me wants him to come spend Thanksgiving with us. And so there's some amount of conflict. And my brain also says, well, if his grandparents were coming, who he really wants to see, maybe he would make it work, but now maybe he won't. So all the stories and the mind drama about Thanksgiving, which are probably not necessary, which I'll say, actually, I know are not necessary. I also have an even older son who is coming for Thanksgiving, and he comes with his girlfriend and is in our house where we live in San Francisco. We don't have a lot of extra room. So when we get all these people in the house, there's a chaos, complete chaos, and people of different ages who are used to living in their own space. And so all of this just brings to mind the fact that I need to show up for Thanksgiving mindfully and also with intention to enjoy it. And it reminds me of the Mother's Day podcast, where if we don't show up purposefully and with intention, that's when we end up missing the moments of these holidays. We don't show up, we don't enjoy it, and we don't have peace in the moment. So I have decided to employ some of my strategies already straight off the bat. So the first one that I've been working on is it's not about me. So my parents' decision is not about me. It's about COVID. It's not about whether they want to spend time with us or their grandchildren. It's literally about their fear of a pandemic and feeling vulnerable at their older age. And they get to make that choice, even if my youngest son gives them all the scientific research as to why there is no risk, right? So everybody gets to have their own reaction to the situation. The second tool that I'm throwing in there is, of course. And of course, I find super helpful when other people get to behave exactly how they do. And because you know and love these people for their whole lives, of course, they're going to show up in the way that they show up, because they usually have a pattern, and that's usually how they show up. And it makes me less disappointed. It's like, of course, people haven't decided yet. My middle son likes to decide everything at the last minute. That's how he rolls. And so, yes, I will have space for him, and he will show up or he won't. And it will be wonderful either way. And then letting go of expectations is really the tool that has served me the best over the last few years, after really getting into mindfulness and coaching, that the expectations just cause harm generally. And if you just show up with a completely open mind, curiosity, non-judgment, and literally being present in the moment, that's where the joy and the peace can be found. If you have a whole bunch of expectations, then you notice that they're not being met and you don't enjoy it in the moment.
With expectations, that's a lot of future thinking. And then your experience then becomes kind of matching up what's actually happening with your preconceived thoughts about what should be happening. And that takes up a lot of time. And you're so right. You miss the moments of pure being and being with loved ones that are oftentimes fleeting. So yeah, letting go of expectations has been really powerful for me as well.
I also think it requires a lot of energy. And so that conscious letting go of the expectations gives you back your energy. So for people who've been feeling tired or who find holidays exhausting, when you let go of the expectations and you literally just show up in the moment for whatever's going to happen, you have so much more energy and presence to enjoy it. So thinking ahead to Thanksgiving, I actually also have kind of come up with an advanced plan. And the advanced plan, it's kind of funny because I'm not really a planner, but the advanced plan is to be okay with whatever happens, to expect the mess and to enjoy the mess and to just be all in for the messiness of it. Thinking about, when kids play, there's mess, and that's actually where the joy and the fun is. So whatever it looks like, however, whenever people show up or don't, it's going to be fun. And I think that for me is really useful, just reminding myself I don't need a plan. There will be food of some kind. Their day will come and people will come. And if that's what I'm expecting, then I will enjoy the day. The other thing for me is setting an intention. And we've talked about this before, sort of choosing a word. And so peace and joy were the words that I came up with when we were thinking about the podcast. So peace and joy with whoever shows up and however it is. But I also came up with these two other words, which were light and love, and which for me, the light is to show up with lightness. No heaviness, no baggage of past holidays, future holidays, what anything means. It's again, just this almost a visual of how I want to be and how I want to experience the day. And when I have come up with that, then it's so much easier to show up in that moment. I also can use those words light and love to ask the question, like, what would light do? Light would not be bogged down by this decision about what time we're going to eat or whether you have enough chairs, or like, it'll all work out and who shows and who doesn't. And then the love one is always helpful for every family gathering and every holiday. What would love do? And it can get you through temper tantrums. It can get you through family arguments and disagreements. And if people need to opt out or go home early or come late, or, teenagers do whatever they do and toddlers do whatever they do, it's a really, really useful question.
Your description of light reminds me of beginner's mind. So like, can we approach showing up for the holidays with beginner's mind? We've been through many holiday seasons before in the past, and yet no two are exactly the same. And this holiday season coming up will be no different than that. It will be a different experience, however, clouded by similar people or the same people showing up. The experience in and of itself will be different. And so can we embody beginner's mind and view it as if we were having a holiday gathering, as if for the first time? And for some people, it might be the first time in a really long time.
And I think it being the first time in a long time, sometimes we give it more weight. We weren't together for Thanksgiving last year. And so this one maybe has more meaning, but maybe showing up with a beginner's mind for that and just lightness. The other thought that came to mind during the holidays, so many of the holidays are about light. And so using the candles or the lights, the holiday lights, to just be like a reminder or a trigger of your intention for the holiday itself can be a really nice reminder. So one of the other tools I wanted to share was to set yourself up for success. And this is something that we've talked about on a couple of podcasts, pleasing yourself first. And so starting your day, for example, I will be starting my day with a beach walk, because that means that I will feel good about the day no matter what else happens. I've also taken now to teaching yoga literally every holiday that works out at all, because when I do yoga, I feel so much better. I usually invite my family members to do yoga too, so we're all coming more mindfully. But whether you do a yoga class, whether you practice your mindfulness, whether you journal, really pleasing yourself first so that you feel good about the day, and also setting your mindfulness muscle in to work, to start the day, to frame the day well. So you're showing up with that spaciousness and calm and ease, and so that no matter what comes your way, you can handle it.
Pleasing yourself is not selfish. It's actually an act of self-compassion. And we know from just having interviewed Kristen Neff that self-compassion leads to more compassion that can be shared. So pleasing yourself first on the holiday can bode well for more compassion for the rest of that day.
That's kind of like a gift. It's a pre-gift. Give yourself a gift to start the day so that you're then much more able to gift the best part of you to everyone else. So a couple other thoughts for in the moment of the day. And hopefully you won't need these, but if they pop up, asking that question again, what's in your control? You were talking about your family members, right? What they decide to do is not in your control. It's how you respond to it, what you do, what you say, and what you decide to think about it. The other one I love is asking good questions. So, not coming up with questions that make you feel bad, but asking yourself empowering questions. How is this great that we're going to have a smaller gathering? I'll have more time to talk to each of my children, for example. Or how is this great that they're getting this special opportunity? Whatever it might be, ask yourself the empowering rather than the question about what you might be missing out. And then when we let go of this idea that we need to fix it or control it or have it be a certain way, that's where our freedom is. That's where our peace and joy can come from. And what's really in your control is just whether or not you choose to experience the holiday with peace and joy. And so that is one thing you can control, deciding that that's how you're going to show up and enjoy it that way. Do you have any other thoughts, tidbits to share?
I'm going to invite everyone to think about how they can self-care during the holidays. There might be some element of tradition where, oh, no, I am the only one that cooks X, Y, and Z meal or this component of the holiday meal. And I invite everyone to think about if it gives you joy and serves you in a way that is helpful to you, by all means, continue with that tradition. But if a particular tradition or a particular expectation of having a home cooked meal no longer serves, then I'm going to invite you to simply let go of that and ask yourself what would serve. How can you serve food in a way that serves you? There's a lot of possible expectations or a to-do list surrounding food around the holidays, and just like for everyone to think about how that might be simplified for you. So for me, I usually order a holiday meal from the local grocery store or Boston Market or something, and I add on a couple of side dishes here and there. No pressure, low stress for me, and that's what's worked for me before in the past. And who knows what I'm gonna feel like doing next week.
I love the idea of thinking about what energizes you about your holiday traditions and what drains you. And then perhaps choosing to do more of what energizes you and less of what drains you. And that's the being mindful and noticing, taking time to sort of sit and reflect and think about it. And maybe you don't know, maybe you experienced this holiday this year and you say, ooh, that drained me. Maybe I won't do that next year. And so it's learning in the moment. There's so much to learn in holidays, and to realize also there will be disappointments, there will be sadness, there will be frustration. And it doesn't mean that anything has gone wrong. That's also part of the beauty of spending time with families. And so can you just be kind to yourself and be soft to yourself and perhaps just allow that to sort of move through? You might be disappointed, but when you allow it, it moves through more quickly and you can get back to being in the moment. Two other things I wanted to bring up are just this idea of people who tend to trigger you. And I like to think of, is it happening for you or is it happening to you? And so how can their triggers be happening for you? Maybe there's something here you're still supposed to be learning. And there was a quote that I used to teach a yoga class on letting go. And there was this idea that some people are in your life to teach you to let go. And so often it's those people that trigger you or that really just get you exactly, the thing that you just, it always makes you so upset. Just to realize that maybe they're there to teach you to let go. Like, what's the learning in it for you? What do you still need to learn? And that when you ask that question, which is more of an empowering question, it can change the experience and just have you step out of the experience and step out of feeling like a victim and stuck, and to get back into the moment of the holiday.
So triggers can definitely be a moment of mindfulness, an opportunity to practice that you can still hold your emotions and honoring the reaction that a particular person has on you in a way that doesn't dismiss it or deny it or suppress it, but in a way that where you notice it in a non-judgmental way as being present. One of my senior mindfulness teachers gifted me the phrase of how interesting. How interesting can be a phrase that you use in the moment of noticing when something is triggering, especially if it's a particular family member. How interesting that the same topic that is spoken from this family member is still triggering me, and what the body sensations are in that particular moment, naming your emotions again to tame them, to disarm the amygdala from going into a stress reactivity cycle. Like these are precious moments of mindfulness that if we pay attention, we can actually really learn from and perhaps grow from.
I love that. And before we get on to our reflection questions, I feel like I want to just shift us to a little bit of a positive thought about the holidays too. We talked about setting yourself up for success and pleasing yourself. And one thought I have is there something about the holiday, the Thanksgiving holiday or the winter holidays, whatever you happen to celebrate, that you really love, that brings you joy, that you remember from childhood? And can you make that happen, whether it's a certain dish or a certain activity, or even taking a moment to meditate and be mindful about it, or going to a spot that you used to go to, or listening to music that maybe my family always had records and we listened to certain songs. And so they have just trigger these sort of very positive flooding memories. And so can you give yourself that gift also of just knowing that there is this sort of special positive thing that you are going to do for you, something that you can make happen, and allow yourself to enjoy it and fully let it seep in to those neurons, for giving yourself that gift of the memory and the full body experience.
I'm going to also call out that holidays are a time where dualities can really be held in literal and figurative ways. So for many of our listeners, it might be kind of bittersweet for a multitude of reasons. And this is an opportunity to practice positive attention bias forming by some of the techniques that you just described, Jesse. And in our reflection questions, we hope that you will take it to heart that you also have it within your own power to be very intentional about what you notice about the holidays.
So, as usual, we like to end with some reflection questions. What is your intention for the holidays this year? How do you want to feel during this holiday period?
How can you set yourself up for success? How can you take care of yourself first?
What would peace do? What would love do? What would connection do? What would kind do? And what would joy do?
And this question is to help you practice positive attention bias. What's good about your current situation going into the holidays? And when you're in the experience of celebrating or being with loved ones during the holidays, what's good about a particular moment? So there are a lot of different opportunities to continue to set yourself up for success during the holidays. You can feel free to enjoy the mindfulness practices, the free audio guided practices that I have on awakenbreath.org.
You can listen to some of my moments of presence on my YouTube channel, or do a mindful yoga class on YouTube. You can subscribe there. And if you wish, you can join me for live stream yoga most Saturdays at 9, and most likely on Thanksgiving at 9 a.m. Pacific time. And if you're currently struggling with family relationships, the idea of the holidays, or just life feeling too overwhelming, I encourage you to give yourself the gift of getting some coaching, finding some relief quickly, setting yourself up for a better 2022 and more easeful holiday period and connections. And last of all, plan ahead for next year's holidays and treat yourself to a retreat next year.
If you're in healthcare, please join us at the Mindful Healthcare Collective. We welcome you to join our Facebook group by that same name, and also you can sign up for our emails at mindfulhealthcarecollective.com. Please stay on after the sound of the singing bowl for a mindful moment offering.
As always, if you want to declutter your mind, be more present, and start truly living your one wild and precious life, come find us at the mindfulhealerspodcast.com.
Work with one of us.
Work with both of us.
Start or uplevel your mindfulness practice.
Discover how mindful coaching can change your life.
Or even better, do both as part of our Mindful Healers programs and retreats. You can find links to find out more about our programs and join our communities at themindfulhealerspodcast.com.
Reach out and get started on your journey to a life better lived today.
The content of this podcast is not meant to be medical or life advice. If you choose to participate in our mindful moments, please do so safely.
Welcome to today's mindful moment. If it's safe for you to do so, I invite you to place both your hands atop your heart, pushing in a little gently and closing your eyes or lowering your gaze a few inches in front of you. Really noticing the sensation of the hands resting upon the chest and that interface between your chest and your hands. Reminding yourself that just a gentle pressure there allows for some oxytocin, the feel-good bonding hormone, to be released in the brain. And in this moment, I invite you to call to mind in the immediate past or in your current present moment, what's good about this moment right now? What are 3 good things that you might be grateful for, that are positives for you right now in this moment? Then, after acknowledging those 3 good things, can you bring a sense of gratitude? A sense of gratitude that you were able to name those 3 good things, that you took a moment's pause to acknowledge. And perhaps this might be a practice for you to incorporate day to day or in moments of difficulty. And as you're ready, letting the hands release from atop your chest, blinking open eyes, letting the light back in, taking a moment to notice how you feel now compared to just a few minutes ago. Thanks so much for practicing with us today.